Do a snapstorm today on how much capital you should actually raise and how to talk about it and how to talk about valuation. One fun fact before I get started, I'm here for my son's soccer tryouts. They're all over there. And this is the field where they had Modern Family, if you watch that, the football games. What you should think about and how much to raise is what your current burn rate is. The amount you raise should probably last you about 18 months. Definitely not less than a year, definitely not more than 2. Investor asks how much you're raising and they look at your current burn rate, they're going to do the calculation in their head. If you're raising way too much money, they're going to think you have naive plans. If you're burning 100K a month, that's 1.2 million you need for a year, 1.8 million you need for 18 months. If you ask for 5 million, they're going to ask what you're doing with the extra money. Of course, they know you're going to hire people, your costs are going to grow and so forth. But if you're asking for a lot more money, they're going to want to see those plans. Make sure they're well thought through and the money's going to be spent wisely. The biggest mistakes I see is people say, oh, we're going to spend a bunch of money on marketing. That's the last thing a VC wants to hear, that we're going to raise a bunch of VC money that goes immediately towards marketing. It's kind of hard to buy in. If you have 12 employees today and you're going to show that you're going to go to 35 employees in 3 months, that's also a big red flag. You'd be surprised how many people do that. The big mistake people make is they say we want to raise money for M&A. No VC wants you to raise money for M&A. They'll fund you if and when that opportunity comes around. Be very cautious about saying, well, we just want a huge cushion, or we're just raising this much money because we can. What VCs are looking for, they're looking for pragmatic plans and that you're going to spend money wisely. The thing you need to know is when someone asks how much you're raising, they're also using it to calculate what your valuation is. They usually assume you're going to take a dilution between 15 to maybe 30% of the company. Tell me you're raising $5 million, I assume at minimum you're raising at 15 pre, probably 20 pre, you might hope for 25, maybe I could get it at 12, but I'm setting a range. Tell me you're raising $2 million, unless I'm given any other input, I'm assuming it's somewhere between 4 to 8 pre, maximum 10, and that tells me a lot about where to look. So if your post money was 10 million last round and you're raising 10, let's say, investors are going to assume 30 to 40, and if they think that's overvalued, they'll just pass, they won't ask more questions. I recommend is you price in a range. You're raising 2 to 3, you're raising 4 to 6, you're raising 9 to 12. This gives you a range of valuations. Means is more investors can consider you. Smaller investors can invest at the small end of the range. Someone who wants to write a larger check can still see a way that they can write that check. A range helps. Investors will tell you not to price in a range. I got to be honest, they're wrong. You just have to be smart about how you talk about why there's a range so that it doesn't look like you don't know what your plans are. My advice is to say you can make do at the low end of the range. So $4 million will last 18 months. If we had $6 million, of course, we'd make pragmatic investments. Comes to the valuation you expect, never name a price. Every smart VC will ask, even I ask, because if I can get that information, why wouldn't I? But I'm going to tell you now how to talk about it. First, any VC is going to want to know your post money of your last round. That's information you have to give them, so there's no reason to be coy about it. I would just tell them that's a pricing input. Raising $4 million and you want to get somewhere between, let's say, 12 to 16, just say to a VC, listen, we know what the ranges are for $4 million and we're going to be pragmatic. Let the market determine our valuation. We're not going to try to ramp it up artificially. We know what the usual price ranges are, and we're going to be happy as long as we get the right investor. It's going to be out of the norm. You need to let them know too. If your last round was done at 50 post and you think this is going to be 25 pre, you need to say, look, we know we're due for a little haircut. You have huge strength and you think you're going to raise at a big price, you say, look, we're only raising $5 million, but we're not going to take as much dilution this time because the company's doing that well. We have a lot of competition. A seed round and you're dealing with unsophisticated investors, you can give them a little coaching. You can say, look, in our price range, normally companies are priced 3 to 5 million pre-money. We'll be in that range. Closing, no matter what anyone tells you, having a range means you have more options for people who could finance you, and not naming your price means other people can weigh in. Someone who tells you otherwise simply just doesn't have enough experience in dealing with the complicated nuances of dealing with multiple investment parties. I promise you, take my advice.